Well, a few months ago, we told you about the case of Brandon Raub. He's a 26-year-old decorated Marine veteran who served in both Iraq as well as Afghanistan. He was arrested and put into a psychiatric institution last August for some incendiary Facebook posts.
You will not violate my rights.
Here's video of Brandon Raub's arrest. He was detained without charges and was ordered to spend up to 30 days in a psych ward, but that court order was later dismissed. Now, Brandon Raub is suing the government for infringing on his First Amendment rights. Yesterday, I spoke with his lawyer, John Whitehead. He's a constitutional attorney at the Rutherford Institute, and I asked him to go into more detail about Brandon's arrest and what has happened in the year since.
Well, he was arrested for Facebook posts. And then taken into custody and eventually put in a mental hospital. And so the Facebook posts were basically his complaining about the way the government is operating. He was, again, arrested, handcuffed behind his back. We actually called the police and said, what are the charges? They said, oh, he's not charged with any crime. So we eventually got him out of the mental hospital in about a week, and we had a judge actually rule who released him that there was no credible evidence whatsoever to hold him. And so within this last about 8 or 9 months that we've been preparing for this lawsuit, assembled a legal team, and we filed a First Amendment, a Fourth Amendment case today in Federal District Court in Richmond, and a false imprisonment case. So he was arrested for his First Amendment activities, and he was searched and seized without probable cause. The government did not even have a search warrant because they did not have enough evidence to get it. There is no evidence of him ever owning a gun. In fact, he doesn't own a weapon, so obviously he wasn't dangerous. And so I see this case basically as a shot across the bow telling the government, before you do this, you need to follow the Constitution and you need to do your work, your homework. Don't go around harassing veterans.
And we'll get to your lawsuit in just a second. As you had mentioned, U.S. Circuit Court Judge Alan Sharrett acknowledged the fact that the authorities had broken Brandon Raub's First, Fourth, Fifth, and 14th Amendment rights. Was there any sort of apology issued?
No. In fact, I had veterans groups have called me around the country. This has happened to other veterans. A lot of them, they've not been taken into custody, but the FBI is actually showing up their doorstep saying we're investigating text messages, emails. The National Security Agency contacted one veteran and said he read his emails. They were concerned. So this is a national phenomenon. And again, the Raub case is basically saying, if you're going to do this, you're going to get sued.
So talk about the lawsuit. What is the lawsuit that you are currently filing, and who are you suing? What type of reparations are you hoping for in this case?
Well, we're suing the police officers, the FBI, Secret Service, a psychiatrist who did a short examination of him while he was in jail, and some other employees of the so-called commission that had him arrested basically and taken into custody. Again, we're hoping that Brandon Raub will get some compensation. They put him through hell in a mental hospital, and his whole family was traumatized. And also we're asking that the government be enjoined and they cannot harass him anymore. So that's the basis of our lawsuit. I think we have a case here, but I hope it puts these fellows on notice. Federal authorities and local police, they take an oath to uphold the Constitution. Well, they need to do that.
Now, as I understand it, Brandon Raub's Facebook postings that were so controversial were actually spotted by Operation Vigilant Eagle. What is that, and how was your client actually spotted from it?
Well, basically, Operation Vigilant Eagle is a program that was put into effect by the Department of Homeland Security right after Janet Napolitano issued 2 memos, right-wing extremism, left-wing extremism. In the right-wing extremism memos, veterans were actually mentioned, returning veterans, as being people who needed to be watched because they were anti-government. When I read those memos, the first thing I thought was, oh my, I'm guilty of it too. Anybody would be an extremist if you disagree with the Obama administration. So that's what Operation Vigilant Eagle is. It's a way to, they want to do surveillance on returning veterans, watch them, and if they get out of control, basically, anti-government sentiment, they can be investigated and possibly civilly committed in a mental institution.
So are you saying that the U.S. government is targeting veterans as possible extremists?
Oh, yeah, they say it. If you read the right-wing extremism memo, I wrote a commentary on it on our website at rutherford.org. You can read that. But, yeah, it was very clear. Veterans were actually mentioned as possible extremists. And when I read the memo, actually, the word extremist and terrorist were used interchangeably. So you could come to the conclusion that you could be a terrorist or be a returning veteran like Brandon Robb, and he's very vocal about how he disagrees with the government. You're an extremist and maybe a terrorist.
Now, as you had mentioned earlier, since coming to Brandon's defense, I understand that you've had a lot of other veterans come and reach out to your organization and speak about similar experiences. Would you say that this is a common occurrence or just a few exceptions?
No, it's a common occurrence. In fact, we recently had a fellow who emailed us about some things going on, secret training exercises, and the next day the National Security Agency showed up and threatened to deport him. He came into my office weeping. So this is very intimidating, and it makes me angry. We don't want to go around intimidating. If we're going to send people overseas to fight these wars, we don't want to treat them like criminals when they return. And that's the purpose of this lawsuit, basically, to help Brandon, but also to help the vets get the government off their backs.
John, help my viewers understand, why target veterans? What could this have possibly done? What were they going for in your client's case?
I think there's a government paranoia. The question is, why is the Department of Homeland Security buying 450 million rounds of hollow point bullets? We don't know, but there is a paranoia with the government now. Vets, they think maybe could actually really resist. But most of the vets I talk to, they don't want to get guns and resist. They've been overseas. They've seen something they don't like. A lot of them don't like the drone strikes and all the things you're seeing. And they've come back and they're very upset, and they want to get very, very vocal. And Brandon Robb happens to be one of those kind of vets.
Well, please keep us updated on this case as well as future cases that come up. John Whitehead, constitutional attorney at the Rutherford Institute. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.